Yo, what up? It's your boy, Daddy Steve, and I'm here with another episode of Random Access. Let's get into the news. No. Hello, my name is Daddy Steve, and I'm here to bring you another episode of Random Access. Let's get into the news. Okay? Alright. This is a What up, guys? It's your boy Maxi Productions here with another echo. No, wait. No, that is not what we're doing here. What up, guys? And he always says that. He always says that on his YouTube video. Welcome back to another episode of Random Access. My name is Daddy Steve. Let's go ahead and get into the news for this week. Oh wait, I didn't even format it. Oh well, I'm just gonna show everything here. I already messed up this whole slide. Anyways, we'll start off with the news at the very top here. Activision Blizzard announces a new Call of Duty League. They're selling team spaces at 25 million each, set to begin in the 2020 year. So again, they're taking a page from the Overwatch League. They're opening a Call of Duty professional scene, and they're starting to sell spots for that league starting in 2020 now, and they're starting at 25 mil each. The big thing here that I want to point out is that not even League of Legends, not even Overwatch have charged that much for spots in their esports scene leagues. And I would say that Overwatch and League of Legends on the professional scene have been very popular in that regard. And I know Twitch isn't the whole entire picture when it comes to popularity of games, but Call of Duty's titles as of late haven't been as popular as they were in the past, maybe with like Black Ops 3, Modern Warfare 2 obviously, and Advanced Warfare and things like that. It seems like the latest iterations of Call of Duty have become less popular over time because of less iteration, or maybe too much iteration in some respects. And it's interesting that they're going to charge 25 million for each spot here, but that is what they're going with, and good luck to them. I do wish them luck, because again, the esports scene in general will only help gaming as a whole become more legitimized. I do think that is a little bit on the pricier side for Call of Duty, and it makes me wonder too, what are they going to do when a new game comes out? Like, are they going to change the league to play that new game? Or is it going to be a new iteration every single year? Or, like, how are these guys going to get good at a game that is always constantly changing? Does this mean that the game isn't going to evolve as much over time? Does this mean that players are going to have to adapt to each new iteration of the game that comes out? Does that mean they're going to have the big turnover in rosters with people that are better at one version of the game versus another? There's so many questions I have about this, but as of right now, they have just announced it. And maybe this is why they laid off all those people, to make room for this whole new esports league. Who knows? But that is their goal. They're looking to set up 2020, so be prepared for that. If you have a $25 million lying around, go buy yourself a Call of Duty professional esports team. And one last thing on this. They're going to be city and regional based teams, as opposed to having all the teams located in one location. So if you're familiar with League of Legends or Overwatch League, a lot of those teams were, well, not a lot, all the teams were literally centralized in one location, LA, and they're starting to break away from that format, where they want those teams to actually go play in their cities and have their own regional leagues that they play in, and then eventually play other regions later on. So they're trying to make it more like sports oriented, if you will, or maybe even soccer oriented, where they're playing in their own regions, their own cities, and they're repping their cities, as opposed to where League of Legends just has everybody in one location. And if you're not in the West Coast region, you're really not going to get a chance to see these guys live, because they don't travel that much. In this case, you're going to be able to go to your city that you live in and see the team that represents your city, and hopefully latch on to that team, as is traditional sports. So that's another weird aspect. Well, I wouldn't say weird, but it's another interesting aspect that they're rolling out with the Call of Duty League. And Overwatch is also going to do the same thing in the following years, because they also have Chinese and Korean teams in Overwatch League, and those folks will be be playing against other Chinese and Korean teams in their own regions. It does not have to be over here in NA. And conversely, NA will only be competing against other NA teams until later on in the year, where they all get together to compete against one another. So it's an interesting change in what they're doing here. Again, trying to align it more with traditional sports to get a bigger fan base going. And I guess that makes sense at the end of the day, because if you're going to try to find new fan bases to tap into, you really want to have people like support their city and their city's team. So it makes sense going forward. Our next topic that we have here is a very disturbing event. There was a game that just came out. I want to say it was not coming out, but it was announced to be coming out in the coming weeks, and it was a rape game. It was literally a game where you simulated rape on characters during an apocalyptic time, a zombie apocalypse, if you will, where your character would rape other women. And so Steam didn't think it was a bad idea to have this game released. Obviously, the game never actually released, but it was planned to release and it had a release date set. And people caught wind of this on social media and just destroyed Steam all over social media, all over media in general, saying, what the hell are you guys doing? Are you guys out of your minds? Are you guys stupid? Is your system broken? Like, what the hell? How would you ever allow a game like this to get through? And it got so much bad publicity that Steam had no choice but to pull it down. But it doesn't come without consequences, because they've drawn the ire of many organizations, including the UK government. There's been even the US government actually decided to look into like this as well. They're like, what's going on with here? So our own Congress in the US has looked at it. UK government is actually taking a step further, and they're actually like having hearings to discuss what they can do to limit stupid things like these happening again. Their own words, stupidity. How can Steam be so stupid to let a game like this get through their catalog and actually be close to release there? And Steam, Valve, they literally said that they removed the game because of unknown costs and risks. They didn't say anything about the ethics or morals behind removing the game. They said there were unknown costs and risks to having the game in their catalog, and that was the reason they removed it. And again, their response really pissed off a lot of people too, and rightfully so. It makes no damn sense to have a game like that. It just makes no damn sense at all. There's another game, I believe last year, that was also a big controversy. It was a game where you could shoot up your school, and then again, another issue with very like stupid games. Like, why would you ever let a game like that come out? I don't understand why that would even be an issue. And again, it caught a lot of publicity, it caught a lot of social media hate, and Steam also removed that game. But I feel like you shouldn't have to get to that point to remove games like that. There should be automatic filters to get rid of games in that regard. That looks like a no-brainer. And if for some reason those games are flagged to not be released and they're flagged unnecessarily so, I feel like you could petition that and get a manual review to get that overridden by Valve. But it shouldn't be with the reverse, where you actually have to petition to get a game removed. It should be, it'll automatically remove those games that hit those parameters, and then you petition to get it implemented again if it doesn't necessarily meet those parameters, or maybe it was flagged incorrectly. But it feels like the system is kind of backwards right now. But it definitely caused a lot of issues. I'm sure there'll be more on this in the future, and it does not paint the gaming industry in a good light either. Obviously, I mean, the gaming industry's been under some scrutiny lately. It's been blamed for gun shootings. It's been blamed for violence in teenagers. Gaming has been used as a scapegoat for a number of our social issues, and having this game get a lot of media attention is definitely not good for us as an industry. Moving on though, EA is going to forego their EA Play press conference at E3 this year. More depressing news coming out of E3. As you heard earlier in the year, PlayStation, Sony has said that they have no. They pulled out completely of E3 and are not going to do any type of PlayStation conference, discuss anything PlayStation related at the conference. They've completely pulled out of the show, and it makes you wonder, what is the future for E3? I know they're trying to make that more of a fan expo, but are they actually gonna? Is it actually going to exist in the next 3 to 5 years, or is this the beginning of the end for E3? E3 has had its issues throughout its time as a trade show, but people want it to be a fan expo, and is obviously known as a trade show, but it feels like they're gearing it towards more of a fan expo, but it just seems a little hollow. And honestly, I live here in LA, and I've tried to go to the show, and those tickets are prohibitively expensive for what you get out of it. I mean, fans don't get full access to everything. They get really shitty goodie bags, and it just doesn't seem like it's geared toward fans. And it definitely is not. I mean, it is a trade show first and foremost that is slowly going under an ugly transformation into a fan expo. So I don't know what the future holds for E3 or if it's even going to exist in 3 to 5 years. But with major like publishers pulling out like this, with first Sony and now EA completely like wiping their hands clean of the show, it's going to be up to Microsoft to really keep this thing afloat. Microsoft and other large publishers like Ubisoft and Bethesda. But I mean, Bethesda's had some trouble last year. They almost destroyed their company completely off of the Fallout 76 debacle. Ubisoft usually has a good showing at E3. They're always fun. So that's a good plus. But I mean, outside of Microsoft and Ubisoft, what do you really have? Square Enix was a joke at E3 last year. I mean, it's just really, really depressing to see this happen in a convention that has been such a staple of game releases and excitement and hype going into the holiday season. It's definitely going to be weird this year, especially with no Sony. And it's now that EA is completely wiping their hands clean here. There may be more publishers to follow in the future. So stay tuned for that. Definitely interesting to see that. Next thing we have here is a report that Ninja earned $1 million for promoting Apex on its release. And that is an insane amount of money right there. So obviously Apex had an amazing launch, coming out of nowhere to just overtake the gaming world as a whole. And obviously Apex has maintained momentum, but not as much as Fortnite has and still is doing. But it definitely has maintained momentum. It's been like one of the top 5 games on Twitch since launch. But it's interesting to see that they paid so much money to Ninja to promote this game. Obviously Ninja is huge with the VR community. He made a name with Fortnite last year. He was the largest streamer last year. It makes sense to get the most bang for your buck. Obviously the audience is going to like the same game. You would assume hypothetically that Fortnite players would roll into Apex for the most part. But just to see that he cashed in on $1 million for promoting the game just gives you an idea of what the top earners in the industry are able to command as far as compensation. So it's pretty awesome to see that. Additionally, Respawn, the developers of Apex, they've banned over 355,000 cheaters since launch, which is pretty awesome. And that may have to do with why the game has suffered a little bit in viewership too, because they're just banning people left and right for being cheaters, which I appreciate. I appreciate them banning folks on the game. Unfortunately, I can't play the game because my computer is a potato. But the game, I do appreciate it for what it is. It is fun to watch. It is fun to play if you actually if you can actually run the game. And yeah, it's definitely feels healthy. I don't think I've run into a cheater in the few games that I've played. I've never felt like someone was aimbotting or doing some craziness in the gameplay where it looked like they were cheating or anything like that. So kudos to Respawn for staying on top of it. I know they're working with EA to make sure that they keep cheaters out of their game and keep the integrity of the game. Additionally, there are some issues with Apex I do want to point out though. They do have a lot of bugs still. It does have a lot of just random bugginess to it that really detracts from it a little bit. And the game has been out for a little bit now, and hopefully that'll be addressed soon, but it does seem to be quite buggy as compared to Fortnite. I don't think Fortnite had quite the same amount of bugs that Apex has, and Apex also has a smaller amount of players that you're playing against. Fortnite had 100, this has 60, but we're still seeing a lot of issues with lag, bugs, just like rubber banding type of issues. So I hope they get that cleaned up and fixed as it goes forward, because that's only going to hurt its reputation if they let it linger for too long. But yeah, that's your Apex news for the day. Moving right along, Clash of Clans developer made $150 million in 3 months off a new mobile game called Brawl Stars. Now I don't even know what this game is. I've never even heard of this game before, but apparently Brawl Stars is taking the mobile gamers by storm. And the US and Korea are the top markets, with over 75 million devices having this game downloaded. It is ridiculous how much money they're making off of this game. And it goes to show, this is the main reason I put this in here today. It goes to show you how lucrative the mobile gaming market is. Now we had discussed previously that the mobile gaming market was a huge piece of the pie and the profit and revenue that game companies can make. and that they would be dumb not to look at making mobile games for the consumers to obviously to tap into that profit. And this is a perfect example of how much money people can make and how quickly they can make a buttload of money off of mobile games. So stay tuned. Mobile gaming is not going anywhere. If anything, they're going to be doubling down on this to tap into this lucrative market. And I honestly see the big publishers after their recent issues, like specifically like EA, I mean, even Bethesda has a mobile game out. EA's had a number of mobile games out. I see that trend continuing, and I see it getting stronger. And hopefully they produce better quality mobile games. But mobile gaming is just so lucrative these days. It makes perfect financial sense for all the publishers out there and all developers to get out there and make a mobile game of some sort to cash in on this. So stay tuned for that. And then next up, I wanted to point out another thing too that I found when I was looking up news for the week here. In 2018, U.S. parents spent an average of $433 per year on video game related content, which was up 34% over the prior year. That is a lot of money for their kids. And again, this is for their kids. This is not for the parents. This is for their kids. $433 for their kids. And obviously, if you guys watch the stream at all, you all know that I have twins, and I agree with this figure. I definitely have spent around $433, if not more, on gaming related content for my daughters. And another thing you want to factor in here too is that totally could be from the mobile gaming side as well, because a lot of kids, my daughters included, always want to download the latest game, even if it's some weird game that I've never heard of. They always want to play this game or that game. I always try to get them to get the free game, but sometimes they do have the paid apps that you have to buy, and that factors into the $433 a year. So definitely, that was an eye-popping fact to me. I was like, holy moly, $433 on your kids just for gaming content alone? That's not even counting all your other entertainment expenses that you have for the year. $433 just on gaming content, video games, skins in Fortnite, I mean, which I'm sure that's going to be a big issue. Anything else, skins in League of Legends, whatever it is, like it's just crazy to see that that's how much we're spending, and it looks like it'll probably increase again this year too. I don't doubt it. I mean, gaming is has become such a mainstream hobby now that I just feel like they're just going to continue pouring cash into this thing, and that figure will probably be over 500 next year. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, definitely spending $433 a year. I can attest to that. I definitely have probably spent that much in a year. And the moral of the story is, don't have kids. They're too expensive. No, I'm just kidding. I love my daughters. Though. The next thing we have here is Greece, the game that I played in December, has sold over 300,000 copies year to date. So the game launched in December. I think I played it in January actually, and it has sold over 300,000 copies. I just wanted to give a shout out to the Greece developers, because that is freaking awesome for an indie title such as that. Definitely more on the artistic side, to have sold over 300,000 copies thus far. And they did a small little update for it as well. So they added additional music, unreleased music and designs that were not in the game. They added that in their update recently, so that way you could check out the additional music and designs that they had done for the game that just didn't make it into the game. So I thought that was pretty cool that they did a little mini update. And selling over 300,000 copies of an indie game is nothing to sneeze at. That's freaking awesome. That means hopefully they'll have more games in the future in a similar light as Greece. So that rounds out our gaming news segment for the week. Let's roll into our upcoming game releases here. And so finally have more March releases to share with you guys. Obviously there's more than what is here on the page, but I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. The biggest thing here that I want to call out is Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. That game, let me move over to the side here, it comes out March 22nd. It comes out March 22nd. It is similar to a Dark Souls from what I've heard and what I've seen. It has those typical bosses where you have to dodge, parry, and attack at the right time. And I believe it's made from the same developers, if I'm not mistaken, that made Dark Souls. I can't remember which Dark Souls, but I believe they have made a Dark Souls game before, and it does have a lot of Dark Souls elements to it. So if you like Dark Souls at all, you will like Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and make sure you check it out. It's coming out on March 22nd. Another one that just came out to that comes out tomorrow actually is One Piece World Seeker. I feel like that's more like the typical Naruto game where you're kind of like just going around as Luffy, and you're going around doing all these quests in the world, and it's tied to a certain time frame in the manga / anime. So I think that'd be cool. I like the One Piece games. I played this One Piece game. It was similar to like Dynasty Warriors. I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, I think One Piece World Seeker will be interesting one to check out. I'll probably check it out on Twitch to see how it looks this weekend. Oh, Luffy. I'm sorry, Luffy, Mikey. Luffy. I said Luffy. I'm such a loser. Sorry guys, it's Luffy. And then obviously the Division 2 released today. Tom Clancy's The Division 2 released today. That's a huge one. A lot of people are excited to play the Division 2. One of the things that was said about Division 2 was it was a lot similar to Division 1 with just kind of quality of life enhancements. So if you enjoyed Division 1, you're going to have a blast with Division 2. And if you hated Division 1, chances are you may not like Division 2 because it doesn't seem like it strays from the formula that they created in Division 1 too much. So check that out. It just released today, March 15th. And then lastly, the last one I want to call out here is Devil May Cry 5. So this game came out on March 8th, so it's been out for about a week. And it has been a critical success from reviewers such as like Game Informer, GameSpot, IGN, and also with streamers. So many streamers have said this is probably the best Devil May Cry in the series. Now, I personally have not played Devil May Cry. I've seen my cousin play it, like 1, 2, and 3. It's just not my type of game. It's kind of like a slasher combo type fighting. It feels like a fighting game at the end of the day, really, with a really weird story that's kind of hard to follow, kind of convoluted. But the game itself is pretty interesting, and the one-liners are cheesy enough for me to stay engaged with kind of how the story plays out. But the gameplay itself was never something I was really interested in. But as far as from visually and appealing, it definitely was nice to look at. It was really a beautiful game, and I'm sure Devil May Cry 5 is along those lines. People have said this is probably the most fluid game that they've played, and they like the new character V. They like how they implemented the new character V, and so yeah, if you are a Devil May Cry fan, if you're a fanatic or anything, or if you're just getting into the series, a lot of people have said 5 is hands down the best one of the series. So what better way to get into the series than try the best one first? So check it out. That came out on March 8th. And then here's a list of all their other games here too. I'm not going to go through them for the sake of time, but Toe Jam and Earl, another game, I think that was an old school game that just got re-released, or it just kind of like had a new release in addition from the original game. That's an old game that got released. So check that one out too. That came out on March 1st. Next up, we have, and again, I didn't format this correctly, so you're gonna see everything here. We have our game spotlight. So each week we do a game spotlight on a game that may not have as significant social media awareness or media awareness in general. And the game we picked this week is called A Plague Tale: Innocence. And so this game was developed by a Asobo studio. It was published by Focus Home Interactive. And it's going to be available on basically every platform: PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. Sorry, Mac users. And the game actually has a release date. I know previous game spotlights we've done, many of the games don't have release dates. This game actually has a hard release date. It's going to be released on May 14th, 2019. And this game was first, I don't know if it's first featured, but it was definitely featured in E3 2018. So it was one of those trailers that we saw during E3 last year, which was very interesting. This is where it caught my eye at, and it had an interesting storyline and interesting gameplay mechanics. So we'll get into that in a moment, but before we get into the details here, I want to show you guys the video. The video is really interesting. I'm gonna pause the music here, and we'll get into this video here for you guys. Very interesting. This is called A Plague Tale: Innocence.
But the feast isn't on your plate quite yet.
No! Go, Leon! Don't lose the scent!
This sunshine won't last long. We're lucky to be in this house.
Mother?
Shh! You are to stay here with your brother.
Move! Come on!
I won't ask again. Where is your son.
Amicia!
You have no idea. Leave while you still can.
Kill the sister! Take the boy alive!
Must protect him.
Are you stupid or what? I'm not stupid!
I know you, Amicia de Rune.
Amicia, you killed him.
I didn't want to.
There's something in the ground, Amicia! I'm sorry. I'm sick.
So yeah, the game is set during the Dark Ages with plague rats and an Inquisition coming after the characters. So you have two threats coming at you: a disorganized plague rat and a very organized and dangerous Inquisition coming after these two characters. And the main characters, they're siblings. Amika is the older sister, and Hugo is the younger sick boy. And according to the website, the game website, the story is about the collision between the innocence of two children and their relationship and the rest of the cruel world. Now, the interesting thing about this game is that the dynamic with the siblings is not what you would expect. Hugo suffers from an unknown illness, while Amika has been isolated growing up, so her parents kind of like ignored her and focused all their attention on the sick son. And the rats are literally a physical representation of the plague that was going on during the Dark Ages then. And they're an obstacle for the player. They're a narration element, and they also trigger events and trigger different things throughout the game as you're playing it. Another thing that is really interesting about the game is that there are light and dark elements that you have to overcome. So the rats are obviously they consume the dark. They're not they move around the dark, but if you look at the trailers for the game, the light keeps the rats away, and they kind of like they form a radius around the light. So if you're in the light, the rats usually give you your space and you're safe. If you lose your light source, then the rats, they overrun you and consume you, basically. And the other cool thing about this too is that the environments look very realistic. The art director for the game mentioned that they used a lot of 16th century art as heavy inspiration for the game, and you can definitely see that in some of the art panels that they show there. There are a number of game scenes that you look in and you can be like, wow, this definitely could be a painting. It looks really good. And then they showed the paintings and the game environment side by side, and you can see the heavy inspiration from those 16th century paintings and the game world itself, from the color scheme used, and then obviously from the art and the way the buildings are shaped and everything like that. So it's really interesting to see that. I think the game is going to be really interesting to play because of a dark history with this family. This family is definitely not your Brady Bunch family. They seem very dysfunctional. It seems like there's a lot of secrets to be known. And the other question is too, why is this Inquisition coming after them? Why is the Inquisition coming after this girl and this boy? And what is causing this rat plague? Like what made this rat plague occur? So there's a number of like story driving elements that makes you as a player curious as to what's going on. When it releases on May 14th, it is definitely a game that'll be on my radar, and I'll be curious to check it out and see what you guys think. But it is called A Plague Tale: Innocence, and it'll be out on May 14th. If you guys are interested at all, you should check it out. Pre-orders are being accepted now. And that is our game spotlight for the day. Sorry about the technical difficulties there. Again, this is just a rehash of our upcoming events here. Achievement Unlocked is actually going on in London currently. And then you have Game Connection America, the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, Casual Connect Europe, and PAX East. Which the biggest thing for March is PAX East. There's also South by Southwest going on. I believe it's going on this weekend. I don't have this included on my list here because it's not necessarily a gaming convention. But South by Southwest happens in Austin, Texas, and I believe that is going on this weekend as well. And that's another big industry event. Again, it has music, movies, television, all that stuff, in addition to like interactive entertainment. So that is going on as well. And that is happening in Austin, Texas. And lastly, we have our March free games. Remember, if you have Twitch Prime, if you pay for PlayStation Online or Xbox Gold, which is your online subscription for Xbox, you get these free games and perks. So don't miss out. You're paying for these games anyways. They're free, but technically it's included with your subscription that you pay. So you might as well take the full advantage of those games and get those games. And if you have any issues or you don't know how to obtain those games, definitely feel free to reach out to me. There's multiple ways to get them. You can obviously Google how to do it or go onto the corresponding website to find out how to get those games and obtain those. But check out the games. They're completely free. Some of the games are maybe not the greatest, but hey, free is free. That's all I gotta say. But that concludes our show for this week. We'll be back next week. I do apologize for missing that last week. I was sick last week, and my voice was completely gone. I actually missed my stream last Friday, so that's why we didn't have a show. We'll be back next week, barring any unforeseen sickness or circumstances. Thank you so much for checking out the video. If you like what you see here, if you want to see more videos, please make sure you hit that thumbs up on the video, subscribe, and most definitely share it with a friend. I would appreciate that. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.